Early modern medical recipe books, Gout and Ibuprofen. A look into female medical practitioners, their healing role in the early modern period, and a comparison of early modern and modern medicine. In the early modern period, which is roughly 1500 to 1700, women played a key role in medicine. Though they could not officially become physicians in England during this time, due to women not being allowed to go to university, and university being the only place that you could become a physician, they practiced medicine as surgeons, apothecaries, midwives, and empiric. Women also played a key role in communicating and recording remedies for illnesses during this time. They did this by passing down recipe books. An example of these recipe books is called Miss Codex 252. It's from a rare book and manuscript library university in Pennsylvania. It's a collection of recipes passed around for over 100 years. It's primarily composed of medical recipes, and it are a variety of recipes for everyday life, ranging from culinary recipes, instructions for brewing alcohol, proverbs, accounts, and lists. Many of the medical recipes are quite complex, requiring the use of techniques such as distillation. This demonstrates the skill and competency of female medical healers in the early modern period. For this video, we will be analyzing an extensive 17th century recipe for a treatment for gout and comparing it to the current treatment for gout, ibuprofen. First, what is gout? Gout is a form of arthritis that is caused by the crystallization of uric acid within the joints. Uric acid is naturally formed by your body when it breaks down purines. These are organic molecules that are found naturally in your body in foods like steak, organ meats, seafood, and alcoholic beverages. If not enough of the uric acid in your blood is filtered out by the kidneys and excreted through the urine, then it crystallizes painfully in the joints. These crystals are very sharp and cause a lot of pain. Factors that put you at risk of gout are your diet, your obesity, if you're overweight, your body produces more uric acid and your kidneys have a more difficult time eliminating uric acid, family history of gout, and then your age and your sex. Gout occurs most often in men, primarily because women tend to have lower uric acid levels. In the recipe book Ms. Codex, there's a recipe that details how to make a treatment for the gout. If you look a little close, you can tell that this entire recipe is about half of the page. It all has the same handwriting, and usually people who wrote different recipes had different handwritings. I've transcribed this recipe so it's a little easier to read, but I haven't changed any of the spelling or any of the Old English. This recipe calls for 6 ingredients: 4 ounces of Venus turpentine, 4 ounces of litterage of gold, 4 ounces of litterage of silver, 4 ounces of Venus ceruse, 7 ounces of salad oil, and then 4 ounces of yellow wax. It states, a note to make the black salve. First, you must melt the wax, and then you must put in the salad oil and boil them until it be black. Then put in the silver and let it boil. Then put in the gold and let it boil all together a little while. And then put in the white powder and let it boil all together a little while. And then put in the turpentine, and so soon as it doth boils, put it in presently into water, and make it into rolls. Then you must get lambskin dressed without, or salt, and prick it full of holes, and then spread it upon so much as you have occasion to use. So it's pretty straightforward, although the instructions are a little vague. But what do these ingredients mean? What do they do, and what were they expected to do? First on the list is 4 ounces of Venus turpentine. Venus turpentine is an organic solvent believed to have antiseptic and pain-relieving topical properties. Turpentine is composed of many terpenes, which is a diverse class of organic molecules produced by plants, and it's usually highly aromatic. Terpenes and terpenoids are the primary constituents of the essential oils of many types of medicinal plants and flowers. A well-known terpene is limonene, the organic molecule in citrus fruit peels that give them their signature citrusy aromatic flavor. Turpentine is not considered to be harmful topically, as modern vapor rubs like Vicks VapoRub actually still contain turpentine or turpentine derivatives in them. This diagram kind of demonstrates how the terpenes in turpentine can be converted all the way to limonene, which is found in your favorite citrus fruits. Next, the recipe calls for 4 ounces each of gold and silver. A marked shift within medicinal recipes From the medieval period to the early modern period is the use of elements as medicine, and the presence of these two elements are evidence of that. First, we'll start with gold. Gold was believed to have a wide variety of medicinal properties, mostly because of its precious nature, and it was ideal for healing wounds. Today, myocrocin, an injection medication composed of gold salts, has been shown to reduce symptoms of swelling within the knuckles, particularly in rheumatoid arthritis, though the mechanism still is not known. Here you can see a picture of the myocrocin prescription and also a chemical structure of myocrocin, and right here you can see the gold atom that gives it its effective nature. Silver was, on the other hand, was often added to wound dressings, like the one depicted in this recipe, because of its perceived antimicrobial properties. Modern studies have maintained that silver improves the short-term healing of wounds, and the use of silver in this way is currently approved by the FDA, though long-term use of silver can lead to a condition called argyria, in which the skin becomes blue or gray, and that's demonstrated here. Next, our recipe calls for 4 ounces of Venus cerusse. Venus cerusse is just another name for white lead, sometimes mixed with bicarbonate, especially when used by royalty in cosmetics. It was used as a cosmetic and a face whitener at this time. This ingredient was also added to salves and ointments to cure a wide variety of ailments, like dropsy, epilepsy, hemorrhoids, and even cancer. It was believed that Venus cerusse reduced inflammation and increased the potency of the medicine that it was put into. However, today we know that using lead in such a way leads to lead poisoning. There are many side effects of lead poisoning, including high blood pressure, headache, and memory loss. Most notably, though, lead poisoning causes joint and muscle pain, which, in this case, is counterintuitive to the purpose of this recipe. The last 2 ingredients in this recipe are salad oil and yellow wax, and these 2 are basically just the medium in which the recipe was going to be prepared. Salad oil, or salad oil, is basically just a high-quality oil such as olive oil. Since white lead is really insoluble in water, it had to be mixed with oil in order for it to go into the recipe. Yellow wax doesn't really produce any pharmaceutical benefits, and it really is just a medium for the active ingredients to exist. The result of this recipe is a waxy salve, probably similar to this Dr. M. Cohen's gout salve from Wisconsin in the 1800s. But this recipe was meant to be placed on a dressing to topically treat the swelling due to gout. However, in the current modern era of pharmaceuticals, the treatment of gout is much simpler. You just take some ibuprofen as needed to reduce the swelling that occurs during a gout flare-up. But what exactly is ibuprofen, and how exactly does it help reduce the inflammation found in gout patients? In the 1950s, Dr. Stuart Adams noticed that there was not an alternative to aspirin that did not pose major side effects like bleeding and indigestion when prescribed in high doses, like it was for patients who suffered from rheumatoid arthritis. So he set out to find an alternative and, almost 20 years, landed on the compound 2,4-isobutylphenol propanoic acid, otherwise known as ibuprofen. But how exactly does ibuprofen work? Ibuprofen is classified as an NSAID, or a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. Ibuprofen works by preventing the production of compounds called prostaglandins. These compounds are responsible for producing the symptoms that go along with an inflammatory response, such as fever, pain, and inflammation. Ibuprofen prevents the production of these prostaglandins by binding to an enzyme called cyclooxygenase, or COX for short. By blocking this enzyme, ibuprofen inhibits the production of prostaglandins and therefore the inflammatory response they trigger. So while the 17th century treatment for the gout may have done more long-term damage than short-term relief due to the toxicity of lead, it is clear that the women who collected and executed these recipes were not only knowledgeable of the perceived medicinal benefits of each ingredient, but also stayed up to date with medical advancements. After all, the use of inorganic chemical medicines is a marked medical advancement of the early modern period. One such woman was Electress Anna of Saxony. Born in 1532, she distilled her own medicines in a laboratory, experimented with treatments, and gave medical advice for people all over Europe. The discovery of ibuprofen and the metabolic pathways it disrupts to reduce the inflammation truly highlights how far medicine and pharmaceuticals have come over the past 300 years. And women in the early modern period played a key role in getting medicine to that point by documenting, communicating, and preparing medical recipes in recipe books. I hope this video gave you some insight of the role of women in medicine in the early modern period, and that you got a feeling for what kinds of recipes and preparations were used during this time period to treat illnesses. Finally, I hope this video highlighted how just 300 years of scientific thought has advanced a complicated, expensive remedy into a readily available, cheap drug. Thank you so much for watching.